Hi, everybody. Welcome to your weekly broadcast. My name's Lee Honish. I am a content marketing specialist, and you are listening to the Every Home's Real Estate Trend broadcast. As always, I'm joined by David Bartels. Follow him at David Bartels. First and foremost, David, how are you today?
Very well, thank you. How are you, Mr. Honish?
I'm phenomenal. Come on. Look at where I am. I mean, from where I was 4 months ago, this is a mind-blowing comeback to the end of 2020, I would say.
For sure.
I can't complain. I tried to complain, and then I made a gratitude list, and now I'm great. So follow us both on social media. You can follow me at Lee Honish Marketing, and you can follow David at David Bartels. He is a broker owner. I am a content marketing specialist, and we try to bring you what's going on this episode. We're going to talk about 2021 today. We're going to talk about it from two different perspectives. We have an Inman piece that has a couple of different breakdowns for you guys to go through with their projections, and you'll hear David's projections, my projections, and then we're doing an extended version of what's going on with NAR, which is really what's going on with CAR today, David. It's 65 pages of laws, so I don't know how many we can get to. Some of them pertain, some of them do not. We'll go through them and see if there's anything that people need to be aware of. And I would say this for the rest of the country that listen to the broadcast. You should be aware of this. Everything happens first in California. Always does. Always does. It's kind of a running joke in real estate, as long as I've been doing it since '88. But first, let me tell you about Every Home, the proud sponsor of this show. List your home online for free. Experience the Everhome way and discover the benefits risk-free. Explore Everhome's easy-to-use listing service, risk-free, and begin your journey to sell your home like a realtor. Hey, and if you're a realtor, there are opportunities, so you might want to check out this site. Get the benefits of massive exposure, full service representation for critical elements of negotiation, legal forms, escrow, title for one low set fee that will save you thousands. Visit everyhome.io. That's www.everhome, everhome.io. I almost got tongue tied. That's Everhome for every home. It's not going to change. It's not going to change. It makes me happy every year, every time, every day, every year. Can we just say, is everyone happy? Before I start this, is everyone happy that 2020 is over in some kind of weird way? I mean, it was a big year for you. It was a big year for me. I did a full reboot on myself. You did a big business change, David. Just quickly, what are your feelings on 2020 before we dive into looking at 2021?
I'm very eager for 2020 to start. It's going to be a blockbuster year. Even with all this COVID, we missed having our best year by one transaction. And that was after a dismal, March, April, May, June. And we thought the world was coming to an end. Yeah. And then the fall came and you'd think that it was the middle of spring and summer. And it has there's been kind of a lull here in the last week or so, but we're already seeing activity pick up, and it's going to build all kinds of momentum into 2021. I think it's going to be the biggest year in history, certainly the biggest year since 2006.
Yeah. Let's hope it's not 2006, because I know what happens. I know the punchline to that joke in 2007. So let's see what Inman has to say. A super hot market. Economists weigh in on 2021. We'll break this down into each section and also get David's feedback. The housing market will enter 2021 blazing hot after off-the-chart demand and extreme shortage of houses for sale. While the risk of double-dip recession hovers in the background, home sales and prices are expected to keep rising next year as coronavirus vaccines become available. The economy starts buzzing again, and a new president focuses on housing. Housing takes the helm. Inventory will continue to rule. That, according to several economists Inman reached out to for predictions on how housing market would fare in 2021. They weighed in on home sales and prices, inventory, and the impact of corona vaccine and the incoming Biden presidency. So let's start with the first section on home prices and sales. We're going to start the year in a super hot market. I thought you just said that, David. Said Mike Simonsen, CEO and housing market analytics firm Altos Research, in a webinar last week. The real estate market outlook for 2021 inventory for 2021. Inventory has plugged to just under 469,000 single-family homes this month, down 40% compared to the same time last year, according to Altos data. While about 31% of listings have gotten price reductions at the end of the year in previous years, current price reductions only stand at about 26, according to Simonsen. All right, let's start right there. Certainly for California, that's a given. But do you see this projection happening throughout the rest of the year, David? Is the supply and demand issue going to continue in 2021?
Well, I think that you're still going to have more demand than supply, but I think the big breakthrough in 2021, and why I think it's going to be the biggest year that we've ever seen potentially, is because there's going to be a lot of inventory loosening up. So there's a lot of pent-up sellers who have been sitting on their hands, waiting, but there's a convergence of market conditions that are really leading us to believe that there's going to be a lot of listings, and buyer demand seems to be there. So while there's still going to be a shortage, and there are some reports that that it's going to take, that we're 10 years behind where we need to be in order to provide all the housing that is demanded across the country, there's no indication to think that we're going to have too much supply. So we're going to continue having inventory shortage, just a lot more inventory, which is going to make housing sales boom.
Excellent. Winning more double-sided deals in 2021 with knock. Agents automatically get. Explain knock for the rest of the world.
Knock is just I don't want to do an advertisement for knock, but they're basically an iBuyer that is doing. They're offering iBuyer and transitional funding and listings and that kind of thing, and they're just making a pitch to agents to let them make an offer and double in the deal.
With knock, agents automatically get both sides of the deal and the sell side of the client's deal, get the buy side of the deal and the sell side of the deal, right? He added the prices are going to be falling now through February, and fresh new inventory comes in. Daniel Hale, chief economist at Realtor.com, expects home sales to continue growing, jumping 7% in 2021, and prices to continue rising to new highs, though at a slower pace than 2020, increasing 5.7. All right, let's talk about this. Slower or more aggressively in increase in sales? Do you see more let's talk about, first of all, what they were kind of segueing in, even though it's kind of
what they're talking about is that
there's more opportunity. Yeah, okay.
But that's not what we're talking about. So the prices are going to fall. So we're seeing a little softening in the market. That's because demand has the seasonal lull in demand that we usually see beginning at Halloween has just finally gotten here. And what the report is saying is that they think that there's going to be softness in the market until about February. And so prices are going to start to drift down, but then they think that it's beginning in February it's going to go on a tear, and not only are the volume of sales going to go up, but prices are going to start to move up again, but it's going to be in a more traditional level than what we saw last year.
On the topic of vaccines, with the vaccine on the horizon, we may even be able to open the economy. So that will lead to a lot more economic confidence among home buyers, and more people will just be willing to enter into home ownership with recovery. We haven't really talked about the vaccine and its impact on housing. We've talked about it in regards to its impact on the economy. Will that increase confidence throughout the market from your perspective?
Well, for sure. So there are a lot of things that are happening. So, there are a lot of buyers that are sitting on the sideline because they don't want to go into somebody's house that might have COVID. They don't want to interact with the public in general. Then you've got sellers who don't want people in their house. And so what the vaccine does, it simply gives them confidence that things are going better. And it's not the vaccine all by itself. It's going to be people getting vaccine. And as you get into March and April and May, when we start to get to, guys like you and I being able to get our vaccine, then once people start to get vaccinated, they start to be less concerned about catching COVID and more concerned about getting their house sold or getting a house bought. So that'll bring people, out of the woodwork. So that's just one of several factors that will lead to more inventory and more buyers to absorb that new inventory.
Daryl Fairweather, the chief economist for Redfin, also went on to say they're going to be seeking out places that are more affordable where they can have more space, and they'll choose to live in places that meet their own personal preferences instead of just living where they can find a job. So let's talk about affordability issues in the coming years. And I'm sure it's going to tie into the Biden presidency. Affordability in California is becoming an issue. It's causing sort of an exodus within California. And certainly the possibility of rising taxes in California has scared a lot of people as well. What do you see on the horizon for affordability issues for renters or buyers, David?
Well, it depends on where you are, but I think that we're going to continue to have an affordability crisis. If you look at the median home prices, not only did it cross $300,000 nationwide for the first time, it crushed it. The last I saw was like $327,000. Previously it had been 280, 290, and we just soared right through that this year. And so I think that it's becoming less affordable all over the country. There is an exception, and that's in these dense urban areas, San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, where you have these big downtown financial centers that people live close to where they're going to work, and there's been a mass exodus of those. And whether or not so there's been falling prices, rental demand has been is lower. People are getting great deals on rents. Housing prices have really come down in those marketplaces, and unless people go back to those cities, you might find that the most affordable it's ever going to be going forward, to buy in those marketplaces. So if somebody who has been priced out of the market and is thinking, ahead into the future, they might want to go ahead and either lock down a rental agreement or purchase a place in one of those big cities. Otherwise, you're going to see house prices, both rental prices and home prices, continuing to increase.
In a forecast released Tuesday, Fannie Mae Economist and Strategic Group had a modest expectations, predicting a 2.8% rise in total home sales in 2021 after 7.6% rise in 2020. The mortgage giant expects the median existing home price to rise by 4.1%. Okay.
Right.
They are modest. You're seeing it a little more aggressively. I'm not surprised that Fannie Mae is trying to remain a little more even keeled on the topic. I don't think anybody's going to be upset if they're under the numbers, and I'm sure this probably came out because they were doing some kind of projection to figure out their own numbers for the coming year. And it's always to be on the side of safe than sorry. But there is a huge potential from your projection, as well as many, on this being an epic year.
Well, I mean, they're just going to say that this was a big year in housing in spite of the low inventory, which is
Right.
why prices have soared so much. But what they're talking about here is an increase in the total home sales. So sales rose 7.6% this year over last year. And now what you're looking at is another, say, call it 3% increase over that for next year. And prices are obviously going to continue to go up. So when you see prices going up 4% like they're projecting, pardon me, when you see that going up, that kind of signals the imbalance that you're seeing in supply and demand. And so while sales are going up, that doesn't mean there's an abundance of inventory. There's going to be more inventory to allow for those sales to increase, but there's still not going to be there's still going to be more buyer demand than available houses to purchase, and so prices are going to continue to rise.
Which segues into Svenja Gudel. I apologize if I butchered that. Chief economist of the Zillow Group, who told Inman via email, the biggest factor that will drive the housing market in 2021 are the age-old economic fundamentals of supply and demand. The numbers of available homes will remain low and the demand for them will stay exceptionally high, Goodell said. The ongoing push-pull will ensure that home prices keep rising at an above-average pace, which will continue to cut both ways for existing homeowners. There will be enormous opportunities to build and utilize utility, especially in post-COVID economy in which they are very likely to see a surge in spending of all kinds. This goes back to what you were saying, and Zillow has sort of backed that up.
Well, I was going to say they're geniuses because that kind of mirrors what I'm saying, so we're going to have a supply and demand imbalance. Sales are going to grow and prices are going to grow faster.
Well, Goodell further goes on. He is hopeful the vaccine will ease seller anxiety and pull them off of the proverbial fence. Increased levels of new construction activity at the tail end of 2020 will continue into the first few months of 2021, both of which will add some modest amounts of new inventory. We haven't really talked about new home inventory at all much. What I've seen in Southern California, at least certainly in the San Diego County areas going up into Orange County and LA, they're doing, multi-unit. They're compressing as much housing as they can into existing projects. They've rewritten projects into townhouses and condominiums instead of single-family resident homes. And as we've talked about previously, the cost to build a house is technically the same from Florida to California, but based on our taxes and our process here, it just costs more. So it's logical in California. As a person, I've done development, so I understand this. If you're going to go to the trouble, why not build higher density? Do you see more higher density and more housing on the horizon out in the Conejo or in the future?
Well, we're not seeing much development up here, but what we do see, it is geared towards the lower income first time home buyer segment of the market. And I think that's what's happening. What I'm hearing from home builders or about home builders is that they're not making as big a bet as they did. They have a tendency they're buying smaller pieces of land, and they don't want to build these 2,500 home developments anymore. They're opting for 100 townhouses or 100 condos or those kind of things. And there's a lot of pressure in these communities to get the zoning accomplished that makes living in those communities more affordable. And so those are a lot of the conditions to getting zoning approved that permits the building. And the problem with home builders is that they're buying land 5 or 10 years before they actually go to develop it, and so they're having trouble keeping up. And then when they put a plan together and then the economy changes, they have a tendency to scale back and repurpose it, which is kind of what we're seeing now.
Goodell also commented on the comeback. The rental market will come back strongly. We have to talk about this because we are at the end of the month for the rest of the country. We're about 30 days away in California from the end of the quote unquote moratorium. Goodell said he welcomes the news for struggling landlords, but the solace to younger Americans just starting out and saddled with higher rent. Household information has been historically weak for the past several years, but these millions of missing households will continue to set out and seek homes of their own and are very likely to turn to the rental market. What is to become of the rental market? Nobody's done anything yet, David. We haven't really talked about it.
No, I mean, listen, if you think about the path that first-time home buyers make to home ownership, you're with your parents, and then you may or may not go to college where you have an experience of living on your own, generally with roommates. And then you get you get a job, and you want to, maybe you start out of your parents' house, depending on where I guess where you go, and then you get an affordable apartment, then maybe you get a better apartment, and then you buy a house. And what we've seen is millennials, and now I think they call them Gen Zers.
Gen Z.
We're seeing those people make that transition from rental to home ownership. And Gen Zers are now beginning to buy their first houses. Millennials are the biggest buyers and sellers right now, but they're of the generation where they're not quite selling their first house and moving up. There are some move up buyers that are millennials, but for the most part, those they have either bought or are buying their own house. Gen Zers are mostly renting and looking for a way into the market, but they're going to continue to prop up demand. And as the older generations, the guys like me, those guys are going to they're beginning the process of selling and downsizing, which is creating more inventory for the move-up buyers, which are millennials. So you can just see people kind of flowing through from rental to house of dreams, and then downsizing to as they age out in the house.
What I wonder is, clearly there are going to be some evictions, no matter what anybody thinks. There are people that are going to lose homes. This is, I think, an inevitable fact of this coming market, and it will be sad. And I wish it was avoidable, but it's not. There are too many people unemployed. There are too many things going on. So we're going to have mass evictions. Do you think that there is a glut of buyers and renters that will compensate for the people that are being removed and still being able to stabilize the market?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and this is one of the factors that are going to result in the massive inventory that we have, and that is, a lot of evictions are going to start January 1st. So if people haven't paid 25% of their rent, they've been paying less than 25%. Those landlords and companies, mortgage companies, are going to be able to start the eviction/foreclosure process. If people have been paying 25% of their rent or more, then they've got to wait until February 1st. And the new COVID relief bill that just came out, I think, did not extend it beyond that. So you're going to see the market start to reconcile all of these rent abatements that renters and homeowners have taken, whether or not they needed it or not, and the renters still owe the money, and whether or not homeowners are going to pursue that or not is another question. But there's going to be a lot of people selling their house to avoid foreclosure, and you're going to see a lot of landlords evicting and selling their house because they don't want to deal with that risk again going forward, and they're just done being a landlord, and what was passive income turned into a nightmare for many of them, and they just want to cash out and do something safer with their money.
Yeah, I would think that commercial landlords, much like everybody else in the U.S. economy, were paycheck to paycheck. So not having that steady stream of passive income probably had some kind of impact. There probably is a commercial play to be looked at, and we've kind of reviewed a couple of pieces on that. But 2021 will be interesting for multifamily commercial properties. On the Biden presidency, Realtor.com anticipates that the Biden administration will likely focus its early efforts on keeping the coronavirus as contained as possible, said Mr. Obvious. Sorry. I would hope that that's his focus. I don't know where that came from. Until vaccines are more widely available, this is one of the best ways to help the economy heal. Additionally, it deals if a deal is not reached before January, ensuring another stimulus package, which they're currently doing right now for 600. This was written last Tuesday, available to support to individuals and businesses while economic activity continues to lag. As the vaccines are rolled out, will be a top priority. Beyond that, Biden has an ambitious policy agenda that the impact on economy will depend on what the administration prioritizes. So let's talk about this first. The stimulus package was passed. They're trying to squeeze more money out of it. $600 is sort of a Band-Aid to pay for your Christmas stuff, which is the way everybody's treating it. I believe, this is my personal feeling, I have no science or math or any kind of real estate background, even though I've done this for 30 years on this at all. $600 is a lot of money. It's just not a lot of money to people in California or New York or even possibly parts of Florida. But to the rest of the country, $600 is a real check. That's a real weekly check. That is a real number. I feel that the people who are downplaying the impact of $600 are in different areas where the dollar, has less value, for goodness sakes. What's your feelings on the $600 package, the possible $2,000 package? Forget all the insane fat and spending that everybody talks about in this bill. Let's just talk and focus on, will there be an impact from the $600 or possibly $2,000?
Well, it looks like the $2,000 is dead on arrival at the Senate, based on the headlines I was reading this morning.
Yes.
Whether or not and I don't know if the $600 is a one-time payment, or it's an extension of the unemployment benefits for weekly. The $600 one-time payment is not really going to have any significant impact on anything. It just is a lifeline, to some people that buys them a little more time, to maybe get gainfully employed. And hopefully they'll be able to do that. But the $600 per week, if that got extended for 3 or 6 months, I'm not sure then that is a lot more meaningful. And, based on the first round of that, it seemed to make a big difference in the quality of life of people and their ability to participate actively in the economy. And there are many instances where $600 per week is more than what they were making working. So there's been some criticism of that it was a disincentive for some people to get back to work, as opposed to just taking the money. The problem is when taking the money, it runs out and then you can't find a job. So, I don't know how to balance it, but $600 a week makes an impact. The $600 one time just stalls the inevitable.
I agree. Biden has promised to invest $65 billion into building affordable homes, both rental and for sale. That's a significant investment and will definitely mitigate home prices and increases and rent increases. Does $65 billion put a dent into housing and rentals from your perspective?
Gosh, the numbers are mind-boggling, right? If you would think, but I have little confidence in the government's ability to spend $65 billion.
Me too.
I don't know. There's a lot of waste, in that. Some of it's just throwing money at a problem. It doesn't really solve anything. I do know that the initiatives, are centered around first-time home buyers, giving tax credits to first-time home buyers. There's an emphasis on segregating or desegregating housing to get people of different color, more mainstream. So I think that some of that is. I don't know how the mechanics work. I don't know how they use that money. I don't know if it's incentives or it's building infrastructure. It's given to states to encourage low-income housing. I don't know really how it's going to do it, but when you say 65 billion, that's a lot of money, to go around, the world. And you'd think that they'd be able to do something, but like most government programs of that size, it generally doesn't have the impact you'd expect.
Lastly, double dip recession. In its 2021 forecast, a Realtor.com cautioned that double dip recession was still a possibility next year, in part of an uneven recovery in the labor market. As the U.S. continues in a K-shaped recovery, a gap is widening between those with and without jobs, as well as industries recovering well versus those continued to lack of business. Let's talk about it. First of all, David, what is a double dip recession?
Well, I'm not an economist, but double dip recession is basically, that's a trick question.
It's twice, right?
Is basically a where you hit a recession and then you pull out of it and then you dip into a recession again over, I think it's a 6-month period. And that's what they're talking about, the K-shaped recovery, where it drops and then it goes up and then it drops again. And that is, and then ideally it's going to come up again. Listen, there is, I suppose it's always possible, but there's little indication that the economy is really in bad shape. At least from my worldview. I'm sure there are people that are suffering all over, but what impact that has on the broader economy is not really something that I can articulate. It seems to me that the economy is moving just along, and if I'm using housing as any indication, and the number of buyers who are out there trying to do a transaction, I'd say that there's little risk of a double dip recession unless housing crashes. And given the low interest rate, the limited supply, the buyer demand, there's no indication, and nobody is forecasting a decline in sales or a decline in home values. So as long as housing stays strong, I think the economy overall is going to be fine.
Yeah, I agree, at least for the foreseeable future. It just really depends what happens next. Does business get reopened? Do they stimulate it with more money? Do they continue to bail out, put a Band-Aid on the problem until it's all settled? The number one question I'm asked a lot lately, David, especially with my banking background, is, do you think the market's going to pop? Let's just hypothetically say that we reach the peak of the peak this next summer. You're still looking at years before you travel back down to anything that would be noticeable. It takes years for those things to happen. It doesn't happen overnight. Prices just don't rocket into the toilet. I knew about short sales 2 years before they happened. They were happening in smaller places. Now, if that starts to occur, then certainly. I think
there's no evidence that there's going to be short sales. There's going to be foreclosure starts, but there's not even going to be a big wave of foreclosures. They're just foreclosure starts, and people are going to sell out of that or mitigate it through loan mods.
I agree. And I suspect that from an asset manager perspective, this is what they did at about 2010. It's all going to be sold out the back door. This isn't like readily available inventory that's coming back. There's no REO market that's suddenly going to appear. And I've been asked this question a lot. Do you think now's the time to get into REOs before this all happens? No. Why would they start giving up 6% from a banking perspective to start hiring real estate agents again? They get you to basically, for $100, go tell them the value. Then they sell it in bundles to investors.
Right.
And get near market value. Why would they start selling them off one at a time as they did when I started it back in '88? It doesn't make any sense. The smart play, I hate to say it, it's repeatedly, we've said it, David, right? Build your brand, be an advocate, help people that are struggling, you'll get deals. Simple as that. It's not even a horribly hard formula to figure out, especially in January. You talked about this on the last one, and I guess this would be our realtor tip for the day. How imperative is it right now going into a hot season to start building your brand, helping people that are either struggling, wanting to sell, wanting to buy, whatever, and getting your information out there for 2021?
Well, I think that's a constant. I mean, and it doesn't matter what your business is. No matter what you do, you've got to be able to create some differentiation in the marketplace from from what others are doing. And so you need a brand, you need a unique selling proposition, you need an angle, and you need to work hard. And if you do all those things, good things will happen.
Please get online. Please, in 2021, all realtors, please get online. Please, it would make me happier. And stop. Just be original with your content, please. It hurts me when I see another thing about changing your baking soda because it's the end of the year and your refrigerator stinks pieces popping up in my feed. Please, for me, as someone who creates content, please stop that. This is an opportunity to tell you about Everhome. They are a proud sponsor of this show. List your home online for one low set fee. Experience the Everhome way and discover the benefits risk-free. Explore Everhome's easy-to-use listing service risk-free and begin your journey to sell your home like a realtor. Get the benefits of massive exposure, full service representation for critical elements of negotiation, legal forms, escrow, title, all for one low set fee, and it will save you thousands on your next transaction. And if you're a real estate professional within Southern California, go check it out. There are opportunities available, and they would be happy to talk to you. Send an email to david@everhome.io. But everybody go visit the website, www.everhome.io. That's www.everhome.io. That's Everhome for every home. It's not going to end. It's not going to end. Last but not least, with the remaining few minutes we have on this, we have a NAR segment, which is really a car segment today because I suspect some of these will bleed into other places, David. The 2021 laws, California came hard with a new set of laws for 2021. I went through this document last night and got a headache, and then I went through it this morning. It's 65 pages of minutia that lawyers must be licking their chops on. My personal favorite is this PPP thing. There's a prepayment penalty thing and debt collectors having to have licenses now. Like there's some that just make me smile as a former asset manager. All right, I would love to hear your feedback about this document or any particular law that jumped out at you.
No, I don't think we have time to go through it all, but I think the big thing here is, as it relates to housing in particular, I think that the big thing that we have to think about is that if you are a landlord, okay, and you've got somebody who hasn't paying rent, you're going to be able to make that claim. That money is still due. So if you've had somebody not paying you a $2,000 a month rent for 10 months and they owe you $20,000, you are not limited based on the traditional limits in small claims court. So you can now go to small claims court, and where there was traditionally a limit on the amount of the claim that you have the options to file that claim for collection and judgment inside the small claims form, even if it's $20,000 or $30,000. You have the option to go to Superior Court as well, but it's a much easier and less expensive and faster process to do it inside of small claims court. And I think that's a big win for these small landlords who have really, everybody else has been taken care of except them. The banks got help, the renters got help, the homeowners got help, but the landlords who are kind of stuck in the middle between having to pay their mortgage and not getting rent, those guys have not been covered. And this is the first thing that I've seen that really puts them in position that increases the likelihood that they'll be able to collect at some point that past rent that was due for them. And so if we were just to cover one thing, that would be the one that I'd want people to know about.
And I know we're winding down right here because you have to run. The other one, because I have reviewed the full document because I am nutty like that. There is a lot about advocacy, especially in regards to loan types, debt collection, but a lot of it seems to be protection to the elderly specifically. Just another word on this, because you and I have built a platform literally for a decade, David, on one topic of being an advocate. And now there are specific laws to this. Forget the code of ethics with NAR and CAR. I guess what I'm looking for is a 2021, please go be an advocate and stop worrying about making the sale kind of thing. Because now it's law. There are physical laws that if you are aggressively doing things, from collection all the way to the way you handle the elderly. You're going to, they're going to want to make, some lawyers going to want to make money on this somehow. So it needs to be made aware of. So going into 2021, sort of a last message, how important is it to be an advocate going into the coming year?
Well, I think it's, being an advocate means two things to me. Number one, it means doing the right thing. And number two, putting the person that you're trying to help's interest ahead of your own. And not doing something just because you're going to make money, just doing something because you can help. If you're a real estate agent, your superpower is real estate, and you can do a lot of things with it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get paid, but there are some things where money is not the most important thing. Doing the right thing is the most important thing. And so for me, the way that I always look at all situations is I have a two-pronged approach, and that is, A, take the time to find out what people want, and B, spend the rest of the time helping them get it. I put very little emphasis on how much I'm going to get paid to do that. I just have an innate belief that if I spend my time doing the right thing, the money will flow to me freely and in abundance. And that's been true. And I do a lot of free work, pro bono work, if you can, for people who are needed. There's things I wouldn't, and people offer to pay me, and I'm like, no, I just, if it only takes me a few minutes and I can get somebody pointed in the right direction, it doesn't require, a lot of effort back and forth. We just do it. It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't really increase our costs, and our business grows as a result. They list a house, they refer another person to us that does a transaction with us. There are lots of benefits to do it besides doing money. I just want to make sure that I'm doing my part to make sure that people are, and when I see somebody who's being taken advantage of or bullied, those I not only help, but I help with an aggression that would not otherwise have come forth, because I don't like to see people get pushed around.
Me either. And my final comment on all of that would be exactly the same. David and I have known each other going into our 11th year, David. Wow. I believe it was 2010 when we met the first time.
I think that's right.
Jeez. 11
Maybe 2009.
I think it might even be, I was doing it in my head right now. It's got to be 2009, 2010. I know that there are some revisionists who would like me to believe that I met them only because of you, and I went, no, that's not true. I met him before that.
That's right.
I remember it very well. So by and large, we've had a very, very good relationship together, helping all of you be advocates, go out and help people that are struggling. And I would hope that we continue to hammer and impress upon the point of just go out and try to do your best. Both of us believe in the same principle. 99% of what you do is for free. It's the 1% that will pay you. It is a way to look at it. One last time, please go to everhome.io, experience the Everhome way and discover the benefits risk-free. Explore the Everhome's easy-to-use listing service risk-free and your journey to sell your home like a realtor. Get the benefits of massive exposure, full service representation for critical elements in negotiation, legal forms, escrow, title, for one low set fee that will save you thousands on your next transaction. Visit www.everhome.io. That's Everhome for every home. As always, I'd like to thank David Bartels for another great year, an amazing year, good year. We got through it. Follow him at David Bartels. As I said before, my name's Lee Honish. You can follow me at Lee Honish Marketing. All one word. We're both on Facebook all the time. And we've reached a compelling end to our 2020, David. We've done it. And we
survived. Do I get a t-shirt?
I survived 2020. We will be back next year with more. This for all of you, those of you that watch the videos, those of you that are in the coaching groups, David and I have had a wonderful success, and I don't want to speak for you, David, I'm sure, but I want to say thank you to everybody for yet again another year of prosperity for my family and myself, and I hope to continue it on into next year. For you, David, a big thank you. For anyone out there? Oh,
I'm grateful for, for so many things. It's it's been an exciting ride, and there are a lot of people that I have to thank that I couldn't begin to do it, but my team in particular, who has showed us that we can do something that nobody has ever done and do it fast and do it well. So I'm excited about what 2021. It's going to start out with a bang for us with a public offering, and we couldn't be more excited about that and a national expansion.
And we will be back in the first of the year to bring you more of every home real estate trends for you guys to listen to and to watch, however you're doing it. Just check out everhome.io. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next year.